Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Today in Sports Betting. And of course, kind of a misnomer because today in sports betting, not a lot going on. We're here to talk about the NASCAR race tomorrow night. Got a little another midweek classic coming to you from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And of course, joining me as always is my co-host from all the way up there in New York City. He is the one and only Scott Reichel. Scott, by the way, I didn't mean to actually imply you're in New York City. I know you guys out there on the island take that very personally. So he's actually on Long Island, everybody. So, yeah, there you go. Welcome, Scott. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Doesn't really matter where in New York. I'm in New York. That's pretty much all that really matters to me. I'm not one of those territorial people who claims it's not the city, but it doesn't really matter to me. I'm in New York, and I'm trying to make the best of the situation. Weather is getting a bit warmer. So it's start of a good, maybe a sign of good things to come, hopefully in the sports world as well. And, big day in sports, not exactly from a game perspective, but you're going to be getting some announcements from the NHL, for example, and you might be hearing some other information about upcoming UFC fights. So even though it is not exactly the biggest day in terms of matchups to bet on, it's still a pretty big day in terms of the future of sports for the next couple of weeks and months, so to speak.
It's a big week for the future of sports. Yeah, and this is, something that we're going to have to stay on top of course, as we talk about it on Today in Sports Betting. And, of course, to join us, we've got a NASCAR sniper coming all the way from the, I think what you and I, Scott, would call the Deep South, all the way down there in Mississippi. He is winning Willy, and he's keeping to his ways. He has indeed been winning Willy. Willy, welcome to the show. How are you, bud?
What's going on, fellas? Seems like we did pretty good with this last race.
Well, some of us did. Some of us did okay. It's all about the group effort here, I think, is what we need to keep in mind.
I think you just need to stop going so chalky next time, and we'll figure something out.
Oh man, fucking only the guy that I could pick could run one more lap without running out of gas. That'd have been fantastic. But it was not to be, and ifs and buts, candy and nuts. I know Scott did very well. My chalky picks, not so much. And Willie, how'd you end up doing?
It looked really good for the first 400 laps, and then you had the 200, and then that was the problem.
Picked the wrong race for that one, man. So we're gonna talk about that. We might. Will I be going back to the well on the chalk here on Wednesday? Maybe. We'll have to see. Before that, we'll talk about Willie. Willie, how'd you end up doing on the race? What was some of your big hits, and if you had any misses, tell us about those.
Well, I about broke even. I had a bet on Joe Gibbs Racing to win, and obviously that was already at a disadvantage with Denny Hamlin having pieces fall off his car in the practice laps. But I had a matchup prop to break it even. I didn't really venture too deep into that race.
Yeah, it was I think that might have been one of the stories of the night was the lack of ability on the JGR team there with the Toyotas. Kyle Busch ended up scratching and clawing, finally got up to fourth, but it wasn't a great night for the Toyota race team. You guys have any theories behind that? Was it? Is this something we need to look at going forward? Was this a one-off? Are they not good on the long runs? What happened to the Toyotas, Scott?
Simply put, I just don't think they were able to maintain any type of real consistency over the course of 600 laps. So I think it's going to be a consistent thing moving forward. No. I think at the end of the day, I do think that sometimes just one type of car or one type of team, for example, just doesn't have it. And it seemed like the Toyotas didn't just really have it on Sunday. And I feel like you shouldn't immediately assume that it's going to be a similar story in future races just because of one bad showing. So I think it's kind of a one-off. I'm not really going to assume automatically that just because they were bad on Sunday means they're going to be bad on Wednesday. They're probably going to be using different cars. They're probably going to learn from what happened on Sunday and make some adjustments. So I'm not going to immediately write off the Toyotas just because of a very underwhelming showing on Sunday.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And, it ended up, most of the race, it wasn't a bad race for the bow tie, and they did end up fading a little bit in the end. Of course, I think Chase Elliott, I think he had the car to win that race, and is as indicated by he actually took a late pit stop there and got up to second place, which was in and of itself pretty good. I think one more lap, and I've got a winner. But that was not to be. It ain't the Charlotte. It ain't the Charlotte 601.5. It's the Charlotte 600, and that's exactly what happened. Although they did run 601.5, but I digress. It was a fun race to watch, and a little bit of weather came into play there. It had a little rain delay, but that ended up not being a factor there at the end, except for keeping people up on the East Coast. It's got about 2:30.
I think that was a little bit late. I think it ended mostly around, I'd say, 1 latest scenario. It didn't really seem that bad, especially since the rain delay was only, 30 minutes? It really wasn't anything substantial, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know that. This track is so well seasoned. It's the rain delay really doesn't take anything away from the grip or anything like that. It looks like these guys had real good grip all night long. So let's talk about this race a little bit on Wednesday night. Once again, like they did last week in Darlington, they are inverting the top 20 and the bottom 20, and that's going to be your starting order. And it's kind of interesting because the guy that won the first 2 stages, that seemed to have the car to beat most of the night, or at least the early part of the race, it was Alex Bowman in that '88 Chevrolet. He's sitting second. William Byron, he is sitting. He's got the pole in the 24 car there. He finished 20th. Alex Bowman did end up finishing 19th, so he sits in the number 2 hole there. 2 bow ties at the top. And again, a weird thing. Only one Toyota is going to be starting in the top 10. That's going to be Eric Jones in that Home Depot 20 car. He is going to start 10th. And, and there's only 2 other Toyotas that will be starting in the top 20. Martin Truex Jr., who finished 5th, and, of course, Kyle Busch, who ended up finishing 4th in that race. He started 17th. So, yeah, he finished 4th in the Saturday race, or in the Sunday race, rather. So let's start with Willie. Willie, how does this race break down differently? What are you looking at? What are you looking at different factors for this race? Because in spite of the fact it's called the 500, it's actually 500 kilometers, which works out to about 310 miles, which is going to be a much shorter distance. Almost, we talked about it before we came on the air, almost right at half the distance, just 10 miles over half the distance of the Sunday. So it should be a lot quicker race. And maybe not a chance to get everything. I'll get those kinks worked out late. So, Willie, how does that affect what you're doing in this race?
Well, from a driver's standpoint, at least, with it being shorter, it's going to change their strategies a little bit, which the way I'm looking at it more than anything is just the guys. I've seen a couple of different drivers that ran really well Sunday, had really good cars, but just couldn't get there all the way. Chase being one of them, because a couple of drivers just caught a couple bad breaks. Like Denny Hamlin had a great car. He just was at a disadvantage starting off, 7-8 laps back.
Yeah, I think he started the race. I think they said 6 laps down. So yeah, can there be anything more depressing than that, than starting a 600-mile race knowing you have no shot to win? Jeez,
the Jimmy Johnson. You go 600 laps, come in second, and then turns out you end up 40th.
Oh, that was ugly. And Scott, I know you had some matchups with Jimmy Johnson there. How did that end up going for you?
Well, see, the thing is that I was actually rooting for Jimmy Johnson to get disqualified on my things, even though I had Jimmy Johnson in a matchup, because I had Jimmy Johnson in a matchup against Blaney, but I also had Elliott to be top Chevrolet at plus 275. So I was actually rooting for Johnson to get graded as a loss, so I could win more units with Elliott being top Chevrolet. I know that people were complaining on Twitter over the last couple of days to FanDuel, for example, about the matchups and Jimmy Johnson grading and stuff like that. DraftKings still hasn't updated anything for me, so I still have the recap that I had with Johnson winning. So if anything changes, then I'll let people know. But as of right now, it doesn't seem like DraftKings actually changed anything. So I'll keep anyone posted. I'm still hoping they change something, because I make an extra 1.6 units if they do change anything. So we'll see.
And I didn't see. I saw that he'd been bumped. I didn't see. Did his car just not make it through post race inspection? Was that the deal?
Well, they said it was a rear alignment, I do believe. It was something to do with the rear end, and I saw that Chad Knaus, crew chief, also said that something may have fallen off. But at the same time, Hendricks has gotten in trouble before for designing parts to specifically to break or to just not last the length of the race, and that's more than likely what they did.
So they're just basically building the car with tearaway parts.
Pretty much.
What do they say? If you ain't getting caught, you're not cheating enough. Is that what they say? I know there's a saying like that in racing where if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, or something.
Yeah,
something
that's the quote you're looking for. Yeah.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Is that it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I don't know, guys. Let's talk about a little bit about the finish, and we'll talk about the Wednesday race. What was the most surprising result? Anybody there in the top 10 that surprised you guys? For me, it was a couple of Chevys that didn't really factor in much in the beginning of the race. Kurt Busch and Tyler Reddick finishing seventh and eighth. Willie, what was some of the biggest surprises you saw there in the top 10 there in the race?
Tyler Reddick was definitely a good surprise there. Although I was kind of high on him, but at the same time, I did not expect him to finish that high. Of course, Eric Jones ended up falling off late, but I thought Eric Jones had a great car too. He was running right there towards the front for the majority of the race.
Yeah, I really liked my picks. I had 3 picks in that. I had Bowman, I had Truex, I had Chase Elliott, and those guys ran in and out of the top 5 for most of the night there. In fact, stage 1 they were 1, 2, 3. Of course, that's not going to hold, but you felt really good. It's like leading on the backstretch in a horse race. There's a long way to go, and it's probably not going to be the way it is. But I don't know. I felt good about my choices. Everybody kind of fell off there at the end. Scott, what was one of the biggest surprises you saw in the top 10 there? Anybody really shock you?
Not really. I think that the main surprise I had was Kurt Busch coming in 7th, which isn't really much of a surprise because he had the pole. But I ended up losing the Eric Jones prop against Kurt Busch after winning it last week. And Jones, I just thought, had the better car pretty much the majority of the race. And then Jones kind of, I don't want to say fell apart, but he started to fall a little bit down the stretch. And Busch ended up going on a late push to make it to the top 10. But it was very close throughout. They were separated within about 1 car of each other for the majority of the last, I'd say, 10, 15 laps. And then Jones just simply finished outside the top 10. So I was very surprised to see Jones finish outside the top 10. And I thought he would finish within that, that area. Came in 11th. But I think Kurt Busch finishing, I'd say, 7th after kind of falling off in the middle of the race after winning the pole, I thought was a bit surprising. I was kind of impressed with the way that he rallied and finished in the top 7.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with that. I thought once Kurt Busch kind of dropped off the scene there, I figured just like you did. I figured that he was done. I didn't think that he had a rally in him. And I was kind of surprised with the fact, even though he ended up finishing 5th, Kevin Harvick really wasn't a factor in this race. After as far as your points leader goes, he just never really challenged for the lead for the win. Had a nice night, drove around, stayed out of trouble, picked up a nice top 5 finish, but never really a threat to win this race. So let's talk a little bit about the Wednesday starting grid and who you like. There's some nice prices out there available, and I'm going to start with something. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to play this or not, but it's some of the best odds you're going to find on him, at least so far in this season. That's Kyle Busch at 7-1. I think anytime you can get that 18 car better than plus 500, I think that deserves a long look. Now the question is, can Kyle Busch put it together there for the short run? Because he tends to be a little better as the race stretches out and kind of comes to him. So can they get that Joe Gibbs car? Can they get that tuned up and ready to go and ready to make the short run? Willie, what do you think? Kyle Busch 7-1, pass or play?
Be a pretty good play. He just won the Xfinity race last night on a last lap pass, and he ran really well Sunday. I thought he never seemed to just be challenging for the lead too much, but I thought he had a very good, consistent car at least.
Yeah, it was just another one of those situations where it just didn't quite have enough. There was a couple cars there that were the class of the night. I thought Chase Elliott probably had the best car of the evening, all things considered, there for all four stages of the race. Of course, that's not how it worked out. They played Russian roulette with that fuel strategy all night long. They pushed it a couple of extra laps on just about every cycle through the pit stops, and they finally got burned there at the end. Okay, I know we don't have to talk about my bad beats all night long.
You weren't. I'm just saying you weren't the only one who had Elliott winning, but
what?
It worked out, I guess, for me. I still want the top Chevy prop, which hasn't been graded as a winner yet, so somehow I managed to win that anyway. And I guess it worked out because Elliott was 7.5 to 1 and Keselowski was 10 to 1, and I got the 10 to 1 winner instead. But I also had some money on Elliott, and he almost completely butchered everything. And he would have had Jimmy Johnson not completely failed the post-race inspection. So, kind of balances out.
Yeah, you and I were talking as this race was finishing up, and you were sitting pretty good there with Keselowski and Chase Elliott both. You didn't need that 48 car thumping through there, but that was you were set up pretty good there, my friend. Willie, is there going to be a resurgence of Jimmy Johnson? Is he going to is his competitiveness, is this going to carry through for the rest of the season, or is this just a track that he really likes and he's making kind of one more stand here at Charlotte? Do you think Jimmy Johnson's actually going to be a factor for most of these races going forward?
I don't. I think it's really dependent on the tracks because he's always been the guy he has certain tracks that he runs really well at, like especially Charlotte. Charlotte's historically been one of his best tracks. And then outside of that, I don't think he's got too much left. He drives kind of scared most of the time these days. He doesn't seem like he really wants to squeeze in there like I've seen Chase do a couple of times just in the past couple of races.
Yeah, those young guys, man, they have no fear. I think they're used to driving those rigs in their living room. And as Scott likes to point out, you don't blow those tires very often. Sitting playing your video games.
Byron warned again the hard way.
What's that?
Byron warned again the hard way with roughly 5 laps to go.
Yeah, he did. That was going to be my question for you, Scott. Is this the race that Byron finally stays out of trouble and breaks through?
I think Byron's a good racer. I'll tell you what, I think he's a better racer than I thought he was when I was first watching him outside of the virtual scene. But I said the reason why I wasn't picking him last week, or on Sunday, I should say, is because of the fact that he's just very inexperienced, and having to go 600 laps is definitely a lot to ask for somebody who's going to be making rookie mistakes. And it seems like he will be a very good racer in the next couple of years. He's still, for me, I don't really know how many of those accidents are in his control or how much of them are just fluky. But when you keep losing because you blow out a tire late in the race, I'm starting to think it's kind of your fault. And I think Byron needs to work on a few details here and there to shore up his overall racing strategy. So I'm not really interested in ever betting him to win a race, at least within the next, I'd say, year or so. But I do think that in the future, he will become one of the bright spots in the up-and-comers for NASCAR. And I think he could potentially compete for a Cup championship in maybe 3 to 4 years, give or take.
Willie, do you share that view? I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him driving that 24 car. Do you think they're going to be patient with him and wait 3 or 4 years for him to come into his own? Or is this pretty quick?
Yeah, I think they'll be patient with him. He showed a lot of promise, especially in the Xfinity series. And I do think that a lot of his problems have come from inexperience, not only on his part, but from a crew chief's perspective. Because a lot of the time, staying out with your tires end up blowing. A lot of that times, it's the call of your crew chief, and it does seem like they're not really on the same page sometimes.
Yeah, that is certainly something that doesn't probably get enough publicity outside of the inner NASCAR circles. Is crew chief makes all the difference in the world. I would say that the crew chief is even more important to a driver than a head coach is to a football team. That's just my opinion. I think they make a lot of in-race calls that can determine the future of that racer for that particular event. And it's very important that they mesh together. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to further touch upon that, I know Willie and I, for example, liked Keselowski on Sunday because of the crew chief aspect. And we knew that Keselowski's crew chief was easily top 5 in the business, and we knew that he would push all the right buttons to give Keselowski the best chance to win. And then that turned out to exactly be the case, as Elliott ran out of gas and Keselowski had enough gas to get through it, but he also made a couple of moves late to push himself back into the top 3. So Willie and I talked about last week how the crew, mostly Willie, how just crew chief plays an extraordinary factor, because not only can it prevent the driver from making mistakes, but it can also, or he could also be the reason why the driver is even competitive late in the first place. So I definitely think that plays a factor, which has me asking one question here to both of you. Since Danny Hamlin pretty much lost half of his crew to suspension after what happened last week, are we pretty much writing him off for this race?
Well, to me, it looks like the odds makers certainly have, as they've given him, they've made him at plus 1,300 or 13 to 1. And they've pretty much decided that Danny Hamlin's going to be a non-factor. I'd be interested to get Willie's take on that. What do you think, Willie? Is the old FedEx car there? Is he going to be done without the rest of his crew available, or are they going to be able to step up and surprise some people on Wednesday night?
I don't know. That's a tough call, because Denny is one of those veteran drivers, and he has had different crews along the way. Denny is one of those guys that could potentially end up pulling things off. He had a great car again. Like I said, he had a great car Sunday. Just being 6 laps down from the start, you're pretty much out of it from the start. I thought he did good to even move up positions during that race.
Right.
But at 13 to 1, there's probably some value there. I see he's got DraftKings has him at plus 350 for a top 3. I mean, there could be some value there, but do I want to bet it? No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about.
I was going to say quickly, I'm passing on Hamlin. I know that Hamlin's a great driver and everything like that, but at the same point, I do think that the crew that a driver uses is extremely important, especially in the middle of a season, because you've already built up so much chemistry and you feel like you start to understand some strategies that you're trying to teach each other. And at the same point, you basically throw all that out the window and you bring in a bunch of new faces who might not be as familiar with the track as you might be or your crew chief might have been. So I feel like the lack of experience in comparison to what you normally would have is going to do a lot more negative than it will positive with regard to Hamlin. Am I saying that he's going to lose some matchup props because of it and stuff like that? No, but I'm not going to pick him to win the race.
Okay, fair enough. And let's go ahead and dive into who you guys are liking for this race, because I brought up somebody, Kyle Busch, that's really stepping out of my comfort zone there as far as not taking chalk goes. I like him at 7 to 1. Willie, what else you like? What else catches your eye here on this in this lineup?
Well, you touched on Busch for a moment, and I think Truex is worth a look too at 5 to 1, because both of those guys had really, really good cars. I thought that, to be honest, I really thought that the Joe Gibbs Racing team had the best cars as a group Sunday. They just could not catch a break more than anything. Right.
Yeah, they certainly did well early, as Truex and Kyle Busch were right there at least halfway through the race.
Eric Jones also.
And Eric Jones was sixth in stage number 2. So yeah, they were there. It just didn't work out for him in the end. And do you think that it was a matter of the car going away from him late in the race, or the track conditions changing a little bit as it got colder throughout the night? And is that going to make a difference with a short race? Should we just automatically take a look at the guys that did well in stage 1 and stage 2, and see if they've got something for them? Is that going to attract you? What do you think, Scott?
It definitely could. It's kind of funny because the way that I was looking at this race, both of you already just mentioned the 2 drivers that I was looking at primarily. I like Busch at 7 to 1, and I like Truex Jr. at 5.5 to 1. Both those lines on Fox Bet. Those are my main 2. Conceptually speaking, I thought that both of them had really solid rides. Truex Jr. was leading the race for a decent portion, and then the 600 laps eventually caught up to him, and he finished in the top 10. I like Truex to win. I like Kyle Busch to win as well. I think Kyle Busch at 7-1 is worth a value play. Those are my two favorites that I'm going with, relatively chalky. If I do have one potential, I tend to give out one long shot per race and try to hope it works out. I'm not picking Eric Jones. I've had enough. At some point, you can only be in third for so long and not pull it off before I just get frustrated. And I feel like Eric Jones is kind of towing that line right now. I'm done. I can't keep doing this to myself. I see Jones in the top 5 with 40 laps to go every single race, and then he finishes roughly 9th. It's just painful. I can't keep doing it. So it's not going to be Jones this week. I'll tell you that.
I can't quit you. All right, who do you like?
So I'm actually going to go against something that I said earlier, just based on the starting position and what I actually think of the driver himself. And I'm trying to actually just find the best line available for him. So yeah, based on what I have, DraftKings currently has Will Byron at 20-1, and I'll personally put a little sprinkle on Byron at 20-1. I think that price a little bit too high. I know if you shop around, FoxBet has roughly 16-1, and FanDuel has 18-1. You can get 20-1 on DraftKings. Simply put, it's always a nice sign when you are starting on the pole, and pretty much nobody else in the top 10 besides Eric Jones is pretty much worth a damn. Besides Bowman, also, it seems like a lot of the star racers are starting in the high teens, low 20s. So he should be getting a decent starting position in comparison. Plus, you can look at Byron's recent results and say, well, he hasn't been that great lately. And the argument would be if every race ended roughly 10 laps earlier, he would finish in the top 5 pretty much every time. That seems like what's been going on with Byron. He seems to always be in the top 10, and then he blows a tire and he finishes in the 20s. And people just think that he wasn't really that great, but he was. And I think if Byron can actually avoid crashing the car for once, he'll probably finish in the top 5, or at least the top 10, especially from the pole position. He had a very good car last week, and then everything just fell apart with the tire. So even though I just said I think Byron will be competing for a Cup championship in roughly 3 years or so, I think there's value here at 20-1. So I'll personally lay a little bit of a sprinkle there.
Okay.
You have any thoughts on that?
No, I like Byron. Anytime you got a short race like that, and you've got a competent racer starting from the pole, you certainly have to take a long look at that. And at 18-1, what I've got on PointsBet, you've got them at 20-1. I definitely think that's worth a half unit play at least. Willie, we've got Brad Kozlowski, who we all agree ran a very good race, had a very good machine the other night, ended up winning the race, and they've got him at 10-1. He's about the 5th or 6th favorite here. Any value there on the Blue Deuce?
I think so. Although strategy played a pretty big part in their win again Sunday, there could be some value there. He could potentially repeat it back to back. It's tough to win 2 straight races, although with the variance and the distance, it's almost 2 completely different races at this point, just on the same track. I think there could be some value there, but I think there's better options.
Okay. Tell us who you like. Willie, give us a winning Willie pick. Give us a winning Willie winning pick.
Well, I want to go ahead and dive into my deep bag of tricks here while Scott's giving his long shot out. I'm actually looking a little bit deeper, though. It's Clint Boyer at 66-1. He's starting 39th, and if he can work his way through the field, I think he could potentially challenge the lead here again, because he's been driving pretty good since the hiatus.
Right.
It's something about Boyer. I just like rooting for Boyer. He's such a likable guy. He's a fun guy to root for. Yeah,
and he actually caught my eye because I've got him at PointsBet here. I've got him at 80-1. Ooh. So it's hard not to take a good race car driver like that. And he's a local guy here. He comes from Emporia, Kansas, which is about 35, 40 miles down the road from Kansas City. So we've always watched Clint Boyer's career with a keen interest here in the Midwest. I agree, Willie. That really caught my eye. That stood out to me when I was looking at the odds this morning. That they've got him listed at 80-1, and I guess they just think he's going to be too far buried in the field to make up that distance.
But then they have
over
Jimmy
the-
Johnson at 11-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I don't know that Jimmy Johnson is going to be a big factor. I like him. If I had to like him in any race, it would probably be this one. But Willie, I think you might have hit on it there. He just doesn't seem to be quite as hungry. You know, those guys have to actually live on the knife's edge to make some of those moves. And if you've got any kind of questions, if you've got any kind of hesitancy, you're going to have good equipment, you're going to have a good team, you're going to be a good driver, you're going to be top 10, but you're not going to do what it takes to win those races. And to me, that seems to be where the 48 car is at right now. You agree with that, guys?
Yeah, for the most part. Then again, I can't really say he's not trying hard if he cheated to come in second place. That seems like he's kind of trying a little bit. But no, in reality, I thought Johnson had a really good car last week. I thought he drove really well. I actually thought he won the pole, and they showed the side-by-side with him and Kurt Busch, and I'm not really sure how Kurt Busch's car got the pole over Johnson, because I thought Johnson got to the finish line first. It was really a weird situation when they do the virtual side-by-side. So I thought Johnson had a phenomenal car. Now it turns out he had a little bit too good of a car, if you know what I mean. But the thing about Johnson is that even though you might think to yourself, you know, he could be competitive here because he has been very good on this track historically, the question I have for you is that since the race is roughly half the distance that it was on Sunday, and he's starting 40th, does he have enough time to fully make up all the distance? And I don't think he does, especially considering the fact that the car he used to get to second was an illegal car. Doesn't that play a factor? I feel like that kind of has to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he can come all the way from the back of the pack and make a run. Personally, I don't think he can. I think it's just too tall of an order to put in at this point in his career. And again, to make that kind of move from worst to first, you've got to take some chances. I just don't think Jimmy's taking those chances at this point in his career. I think he's happy to get out there and make his laps. I think he's happy to get out there and stay out of trouble and pick up those top 10 finishes. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Having never been a professional race car driver and felt that hunger, maybe I'm completely talking out of my hat here. I don't know. But as a casual NASCAR observer, that appears to be the case with me. And I'll tell you somebody else that I've really got my eye on here, and I'm gonna ride this kid. You know, you jumped off of Eric Jones, Scott. I'm gonna beat this horse one more time. I'm looking at Alex Bowman in that 88 car. I think this kid is a good race car driver. I've got him at plus 750, and I like his position and as far as the starting grid goes. And I like the cut of his jib, if you will. I think he's a good driver. I think he's going to be a great driver in the very near future. I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Bowman break out here at plus 750. Willie, what do you think? You on the 88 with me?
I like Bowman. I like rooting for him. I think he's got a lot of potential. He could potentially be the face of Hendricks Motorsports once Jimmy's retired, and you know, it maybe Chase ends up leaving. Who knows what'll happen there? But he's got a lot of potential, I think, and he's got a good crew.
Yeah, I do like that 88 crew. Scott, what do you think? You gonna ride or die Bowman with me here?
The truth is that I actually loved Bowman for a specific prop, but I can't find the prop available. I know that DraftKings has had a specific prop in previous races. Maybe they'll upload it at some point tomorrow. I actually was a big fan of Bowman to win stage 1, and I was actually going to be looking that way for Bowman. Because the one thing I did notice about him, as I mentioned earlier, is that he always starts off really well, and then it seems like his car starts to fade down the stretch. And I feel like if you could get him early, especially with the top 10 based on the starting grid, there's really not many people in there competing. And I think that Bowman has a serious shot of winning stage 1. So I actually wanted to see what line was available there, and I would have taken it. However, I don't see that line available on DraftKings. Do you have that available on PointsBet by any chance? Do you have a stage 1?
No, I just have I just have race winner right now on PointsBet. I don't have any other
Okay.
props,
Yeah,
uh,
so
including matchups.
I don't know what number that would be. I might add that, assuming the line comes out, to my official plays. But as of right now, I can't take it. Am I going to take Bowman to win the whole race? No, because it seems like his car always fades late, and until they kind of rectify that, I don't really want to touch him. But for stage one, I'd be all over Bowman. And I think that considering the fact that he's going to be starting second, and the rest of the elite level drivers are going to be starting in the late teens, early 20s, he should, I don't want to say be a lock, but he should pretty much be a lock to finish in the top three in stage one. I think you'll agree with that. So I think
Yeah.
taking to win stage one definitely has some value to it if that line is available for some of you.
What kind of price were you getting on that, Scott?
I don't know. The line's not up yet. I was hoping to be.
I thought you'd seen it earlier and they took it down.
No, I saw it for the Sunday race. I haven't seen it for the Wednesday race. If I had to guess, I would say probably somewhere around 500, maybe a little bit more. I would take that in a heartbeat. I think that's a great value play. I think Bowman should be in the top three for at least the first two stages. And then I think he'll probably fade and finish somewhere in the top 10, maybe seventh late. But I think he has a serious shot of winning stage one. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah, absolutely. He had a dominating car on Sunday as far as early in the race. He led the first two stages, and if you're looking at this race, the end of stage two on Sunday is 300 miles, and that's really close to where we're going to be. So I that's kind of the same logic I'm using to take Bowman overall. That he's been good early. And I think he can put it together for 300 miles. And so yeah, that's Scott. Willie and I talked a little bit about a long shot there in Clint Boyer. Is there anybody with a good price tag on their head? I know you're going to stay away from Eric Jones. You're finally able to get off the Eric Jones bandwagon. So that almost guarantees that he'll be right there. 22-1. Is there anybody in that neighborhood that gets you excited?
Well, first of all, I can't say that I'm fully off the bandwagon. I've just had enough picking him outright to win the race when he always finishes late top 10. I still think he's a great driver, and I'm not going to immediately sell him short on that. It's just a matter of it's not you, it's me. I feel like we should see other people. So I decided to switch over to Byron, and hopefully that'll provide a little bit of more of an edge. Looking at the long shot, so to speak, I don't see anybody with insane value if you're looking for a huge underdog there. I think maybe if you wanted to look at a somewhat serious long shot, you could potentially look at a Stenhouse Jr., but I don't really like Stenhouse Jr. much as a driver anymore. I don't really think that is, that great of a play, but at plus 12,500, I don't really know if there is really a bad play, so to speak. You mentioned Boyer. I don't really see many value plays here. I don't really think there's going to be a race where many quote-unquote serious long shots are competitive, especially with this being roughly 300 laps shorter than the race on Sunday. So for me, no, not really. I don't really see many long shots. You can argue based on experience, maybe a Ryan Newman, but he has looked pretty underwhelming since he came back from injury. Of course, I'm happy he's come back, but if you want to just talk about results, I think he's left a lot to be desired. So for me, no, I don't really have many long shots for this race.
I'll tell you what I'd like to see, and it is kind of a frustrating part about betting NASCAR is that a lot of those lines don't come out until the day of, shortly before the race. I'd like to see the price on Christopher Bell top 10. I think there might be some value there. He had a nice run on Sunday, ended up finishing ninth in the
plus 350
in that 95 Toyota.
It's
go ahead.
It's plus 350.
Plus 350 for top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like Christopher Bell to sneak into the top 10 there. I was hoping for a little better price, hoping somewhere in the neighborhood of 500, but I would still call that borderline playable at plus 350. Willie, what's your thoughts on Christopher Bell?
He's another one of those drivers that I try to stay away from, but he tends to have good runs when he has them. He's having really good runs. When he's not having them, he's having really bad runs. It's a lot of those guys that just they're a lot of them are worth looking at, but at the same time, it's just like, which one of them's going to show up.
Right. Yeah, they certainly. That's the problem with those guys is they certainly have the potential to disappoint you and disappoint you early, as that they can get themselves in trouble. He's got a pretty good starting spot there. He is starting 12th, so I do like that he should be able to avoid a lot of the riffraff towards the back of the pack. The bad news is with the inverted start, sometimes you got a little riffraff in front of you too. Guys like Chris Buescher and Cole Custer starting in the top 10. Well, Chris Buescher starting 11th, but so there's a little bit of a it could be a little bit of shenanigans there early in the race in the top 10 that you're going to have to avoid the trouble. So, and now, do you guys have any sites that you have there? Because I know both of you have legalized sports betting in your state. While I'm looking at the PointsBet odds, which we don't have here in Missouri, but they're nice enough to put up their sports book. Do you guys have any matchups? Do you have any props yet in Mississippi there or New Jersey, Scott, which I know you take advantage of being close to the border there? Anything on the books right now that you guys are taking a look at, Willie?
Well, I do have my eye on one more driver, Ryan Blaney at 16-1.
Okay.
He surprised me last week. I didn't expect him to finish that high, but he looked good.
I like Blaney. I think he's a decent driver, to say the least, and he seems to have a good car for the track. I mean, finishing third place isn't exactly a fluke, or fourth place, whichever one you want to say. But it's not really so much a fluke. But I think that he could definitely be right there at the front competing again.
And you like him? You take a sniff on him to win, and you've got him at. What did you say you had him at?
It's 16-1.
I've got him at PointsBet. We've got him at 18-1. So yeah, they're a nice price there. Scott, what do you think? What do you think about Ryan Blaney?
I think there's potentially some value there. Blaney definitely impressed me coming in third. It is worth mentioning that he didn't really lead any laps, but he did start 26th last week. So he didn't exactly get the most prime starting position, and yet he still was able to work his way up the course of the field. And he's starting 18th, so he is getting a better starting spot in this race than he did in the last race. Then again, he has roughly 290 less laps to actually work up the field. So I think that the improved starting position will matter. It wouldn't surprise me to see Blaney finish top 10. So if I can see him finishing top 10, I think that it makes sense for a sniff at 16-1.
Okay. All right. Very good. And Scott, is there any props you've got an eye on there, or anybody else? Any individual drivers that we haven't touched on that you're thinking about taking a sprinkle
on? Not really. I was thinking maybe Debonetto at 66-1 on Fox Bet, but I'm not really a big fan of that. Just thinking of long shot drivers for the sole purpose of long shots. Debonetto, I actually thought drove pretty well considering the fact that he crashed his car in the middle of the of trying to get the pole. He just crashed his car into the wall, so he had to kind of get some adjustments, didn't really get a great starting spot. I thought he actually raced pretty well, worked his way up the field slightly considering all the situations. I think if he does avoid an accident at some point, I think he could also potentially finish fringe top 10. So I think maybe at 66-1, you could find some value there. Do I think he's going to win the race? No. So I'm not going to bet it. But I think if you wanted to look for a serious long shot who could potentially work their way up, I think Debonetto is 50-1 on DraftKings and FanDuel at 66-1 on Fox Bet. Get the extra $16 of value there. I'd probably lean to Debonetto at 66-1. You have a thought on that?
Well, yeah, and I've even got Debonetto at 70 on points.
So do you have any thoughts on 70-1 there potentially?
If I'm going to play a shot like that, I'm going to go ahead and play Boyer at 80-1.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. It's a good point.
I like the guy that's been there on a little more consistent basis, probably driving a little better car. I know there's a lot of people that are high on Debonetto, and Willie, other than the difficult pronunciation of his last name, are you a fan of are you a fan of Matt?
I'm not. I really don't. I think he's kind of one of those middle of the road guys. There's a good many in NASCAR these days. It's not quite as what would you say, even of a sport as it used to be, so to speak, as far as like the level of strength in the field.
It's more top heavy. It's more top heavy nowadays.
Right. And I don't think that he's ever really going to be that top tier driver. I think he can definitely compete for a long time at the NASCAR level, sort of like a Derek Cope, a Morgan Shepherd. But I don't think that he's going to ever really just be a champion, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with that. The thing is if you could think he could be competitive in this race. And I think that probably not, but I think there is a chance that he could potentially sneak into the top 10. So I think there might be some value there at 66-1. Am I going to take it personally? No. But if you're mentioning long shots, I just threw his name out there into the ring.
He did have a decent car Sunday.
Yeah, considering the fact that he crashed while he was running the pole lap, I thought that he actually did a decent job. So, I mean, that's another factor to consider. But, that's just my 2 cents.
All right, so this is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. That's came up with that myself, by the way, boys. We talked about this the other day about putting down our picks, and let's go ahead and do this. Because I know we're going to be back talking about the Bristol race later in the week, and I think we need to put some names down and see how each of us does.
So if I've been recapping all my plays on Twitter anyway, do I have to really change anything or no?
Just tell us give me your top 3. Give me 3 plays and what the price is right now. I'm writing you down right now.
Okay, so my top 3 is that just for the outright or just in general?
Just for the outright. Yep.
Okay, so for the outright, I like Truex Jr. at 5.5-1 on Fox Bet.
Okay.
I like Kyle Busch at 7-1 on Fox Bet. I feel like we're all going to have the same 2 plays in that perspective. And the third one, I already said it's a sprinkle. I'll put a quarter unit of it on it. Actually, you know what? Make it a third of a unit, and I'll take it on Byron at 20-1.
All right. I don't know how I feel about partial units, but we'll let it slide for now.
I'm telling. Well, most of the outrights I take for half a unit, so that's usually how I go about it because I spread the wealth. So I usually put half a unit on Truex, half a unit on Busch, and I'd say about a third on the long shot. But honestly, you're making up the grading system, so you can do whatever you want.
Well, I'm going to tilt it however I can to make me win.
It's all good. You can do that. I stole your move, though. I went relatively chalk, but I feel like all of us agree on Kyle Busch and Truex. That might just be a wash for the first 2.
Willie, give me your top 3. Let's see if Scott's prediction comes true with Truex and Kyle Busch.
I may shock him here because I'm going to move away from one of them. I'm definitely going to take Chase Elliott at 550 plus 550. I think Kyle at 7-1 is better than Truex just because Kyle did run the truck race and he's running, the truck race today, and he ran Xfinity yesterday. He's running everything, so he should be very familiar with the track. My third place is going to be
stamina for all this stuff. We went through it last week when we talked about how many races he's doing in the span of 11 days. I'm kind of impressed. I'm impressed. I don't know if he's got the Adderall subscription or what he's got going for him, but that's a lot of focus there for a lot of miles.
They've got a $100,000 bounty on him tonight. If anybody can beat Kyle Busch in a truck race, they get $100,000.
Chase and John Hunter Nemechek have very good chances.
So we were talking about Chase Elliott. I thought you meant a literal bounty on Kyle Busch, and I would have believed you. So I thought that's what you meant. But yeah, fair enough.
I got to be honest with you. When I read the story, I saw the headline, and that's what sucked me in. And I saw, the bounty on Kyle Busch. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
A bounty on the Busch? How can I say no? I'm in. I mean, of course.
All right, here's your third, Willie.
Kevin Harvick at 10-1.
Okay.
I don't think he had the best of cars Sunday, but he's definitely good enough to figure it out. Now, whether he really even cares to win or not, that's another story because he's kind of in the same boat as Denny Hamlin, and the fact that they've already got their wins. They're already in the playoffs. They don't even really care at this much. But I think he could surprise some people.
I mean, at 10-1 for Harvick, that's definitely a solid price for arguably the best racer on the entire circuit at this point. So, yeah, I can agree with the value behind that.
Okay. All right. So, Willie's got Chase Elliott plus 550, Kyle Busch plus 700, and Kevin Harvick is still the points leader, right, I assume?
I know he's definitely top 2. I'm not sure if Logano is still technically ahead, but Harvick's definitely top 2. I'm surprised after all that, Willie, you decided to throw Clint Bowyer under the bus. out of those top 3 plays.
You know what? I'm going to,
Yeah. I mean, it's a long shot, so that's fair.
I'm gonna go a little different. I am gonna take Kyle Busch. I am gonna sniff a little bit of chalk there, but I'm gonna go away from Martin Truex. He's kind of been my Eric Jones, where I've kind of ridden him, and he has not responded. So
you know he's going to win because you left the bandwagon. I hope you know that.
I know.
It's all setting up. It's all setting up perfectly for me right now.
Believe me, I'm well familiar with how that works, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I would advise most of America that's listening to this broadcast right now, once they've discovered that I have officially gotten off of Martin Truex, I expect them to jump on him with both feet. Yeah, jam it. So I do like Kyle Busch at plus 700. I do like Alex Bowman. I think this is the race for him to finally break through. And I'm going to take him at plus 750. And I'm going to go ahead and take a play. Man, I hate to throw away one of my 3 picks here on a long shot, but
I picked Byron. I always take one long shot just for the sake of it. You never know.
I was thinking a little longer than that, but I'm going to go with Scott's there. I'm going to put a quarter unit on Clint Boyer at 80 to 1. That is just too much value on a good race car driver for me to pass up. So I'm taking a sprinkle on Boyer, quarter unit at 80 to 1. So let's all right, let's see how that goes, guys. This should be fun. We'll tab it up. We'll have a traveling trophy, and we'll see who the master picker is as the NASCAR season progresses.
So are we all starting even, or am I ahead?
We're all starting even, Scott.
Now we're starting even. I pick Willy and I pick Keselowski, and you don't, and now we're starting from scratch. I see how it is.
I'm glad that you see how it is right there. That's
yeah. So that's why you're the host. You know how
I was just getting warmed up, guys.
You were hustling us until there was some actual some stakes, for bragging rights at risk. Quick question though. I know that we didn't really have time to go over any matchup props. Do we want to do that now?
That's what I was gonna. Yeah, I asked you earlier if you had that matchup. Sorry, we kind of glazed over it. So yeah, give me some matchups, bud. I don't have them available yet. So tell me what you got.
All right. So one matchup I'm going to start with might sound a little bit controversial, but it's solely based on starting position. But it is currently listed with Logano and Jimmy Johnson, both of them at minus 115. I'm going to take Logano. I'm going to take Logano there. I know that Jimmy Johnson has been very good on this track, historically speaking. But if you look at the starting position and the disparity between them, which was the main reason why I ended up taking Jimmy Johnson over Blaney, which turned into a whole controversial thing in itself. Johnson starting 40th, Logano starting 8th. They're both minus 115. I'll take Logano. He has a 32 start. He has a 32 car head start. I'll take Logano there at minus 115.
Okay. All right.
So that's my first one. Do you have any thoughts on that one? Because that's just solely based on. Plus, even if I don't really like Logano that much, he's still an above-average driver. I'm not going to immediately say that he's just worthless. He's still talented. He's still in the top 2 in points. He might not win many races or as many as you'd hope, but he finds ways to finish in the top 5. And I think starting top 10 in comparison to top 40, with the fact that Johnson had to pretty much tear his car apart after failing inspection, a lot of question marks there. You also have to wonder about the drive with Jimmy Johnson, if he is going to, make all the moves that we were talking about, or if he's just fine with riding off into the sunset. Based on all those reasons, I think there's value there at minus 115 on Logano. You have any thoughts on that?
Love Jimmy Johnson in that matchup right there. I think this is
despite the starting position with everything else.
What's that?
Despite the starting position with everything else.
Don't care. I think he's got enough room. I think he's got enough room to make up that ground. I think he's going to be hungry. I think he's going to be pissed off. And I still think at the end of the day, this is one of his favorite tracks. I like Jimmy Johnson catching even money. I'll spot you the 32 spots. I don't care. Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that, Willie?
It's funny you mentioned that one because I pandered that one for quite a while when I was browsing through this list. But I can make cases for both sides, which means I personally want nothing to do with it because I could definitely see Jimmy coming up through the field and I could also see Logano holding strong at the same time. So,
I mean, the question is, where do you think Jimmy's going to finish? And I'm a little bit concerned with his ability to reach the top 10 if he's starting 40th after failing inspection the previous race. I'm not. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement for me when it comes to the driver.
What do they have as the odds for him to make top 10, Scott?
Looking at both of them. Sorry, let me just pull this up. So the odds on Jimmy to reach the top 10 is minus 225 on DraftKings, but that is heavily juiced if you know DraftKings historically. It's roughly minus 200 on Fox Bet. And looking at Logano to finish in the top 10, he's roughly minus 212. And they're basically dead even on DraftKings as well. So they think it's pretty even. So when in doubt, I think there's a bigger chance that Johnson's going to crash because he's starting later and he's going to have to work his way up. He could potentially get in the middle of some wrecks. And I think Logano should be able to have a little bit of a cleaner race based on where he's starting from in comparison. So that's also a factor for me.
All right, fair enough. Willie, you got a favorite matchup?
yeah, I only have one that's really popping off the page at me, but it's Eric Almirola and Austin Dillon. The juice is it's minus 134 on Almirola and even money at plus 100 on Dillon over at DraftKings. And I really, really like Austin Dillon in that match. Austin Dillon's he's consistent to say the least. Almirola, he scares me every time I even mention his name, trying to back him. I can't put any faith in Almirola. And Austin Dillon at even money there's a damn good play, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. And how much? And what do you say? It's juiced towards Dillon?
No, it's minus 134 on Almirola and plus 100 at Dillon.
Yeah, I like that. I play that all day. Your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, that's definitely a solid play. I actually have one other matchup that I want to talk about.
Yeah, I was headed back. What else you got, bud?
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons why I'm taking this prop, but one of them is just the shopping lines perspective. There's a matchup between Matt Kenseth and Tyler Reddick, and Reddick is minus 121 on DraftKings, and he's plus 100 on Fox Bet. Give me the plus 100 there on Reddick. And the main reason why, I made a little bit of coin on Kenseth in his first race back. After that, when he finished top 10, after that, Kenseth has looked like a retired driver. He has looked awful over the last couple of races. And Reddick, even though he's a relative newcomer and you might worry that he's a little bit raw, he still looked really good lately. And I know he finished 8th on Sunday, and Kenseth ended up finishing in the late 20s at 26th. If you look at the starting position here, Reddick starting 13th, Kenseth starting 26th. It really depends on how much stock you're buying at the starting positions. But at this stage in their careers, I think Reddick's the better driver, and I think plus 100's a gift. So I'll take plus 100 on Fox Bet on Reddick versus Kenseth.
Okay, Willie, how do you feel about that? Reddick over the veteran.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that Reddick's the better driver of the two overall, but he's definitely the better driver on this track. Kenseth has never been good at Charlotte in his entire career, and Reddick has been here lately been very consistent, to say the least. He's been running towards the front of the pack for the majority of most races. I really think he potentially could be like the next superstar in the future of NASCAR. It's a very good play there. I do like that.
Well, if he's going to be the next superstar, he's certainly in the right car. They got him in the Dale Jr.'s old number 8 car there. So yeah, that's I think that's solid play. I'm like Willie. I'm not ready to write Kenseth off quite yet, but this is not a track where Darlington was kind of one of his tracks where he really excelled. The opposite seems to be true there at Charlotte. So yeah, I'll take the kid. I'll take that 8 bow tie car.
You're saving 20 cents in comparison from DraftKings to Fox Bets. That pretty much sold it for me.
Yeah, that's the icing on the cake for me. That's a tremendous value there. Picking up 20 cents. Anything else, Scott? Anything else before we get out of here? Anything else grab you about the race? Any props that you want to talk about?
For the most part, no, not really. If I was looking at some, I think the juice is a little bit high on a couple here. For example, just throwing it out there, you have Chase Elliott versus Kyle Busch. I'm not taking this. Should Chase Elliott really be minus 137 over Kyle Busch? Probably not. I think plus 105 for Busch is definitely worth a look. The question that I have about Elliott, and I know that he The question I have is, how many times in a row can you be a bridesmaid before you turn into a bride? And I don't know the answer to that. I know Elliott has the ability to win races. He's lost the last 2 races in a heartbreaking fashion. And I kind of have to wonder if he will be able to get over the quote-unquote hump that he's developed over the last week and a half. Do you think that's a mental thing, or do you think that doesn't really matter? Because I do think that is a little bit concerning when you're that close but that far, and everything seems to work against you within the last 3 laps of back-to-back races. Is that an issue? Because I feel like that's a little bit odd.
You know, I feel like he's been competitive. He's been a little bit snake bit.
He's been more than competitive. He probably should have won the last 2 races. That's why I'm asking. Do you think that eventually takes a toll mentally, or no?
Perhaps eventually, but I don't think they're anywhere near yet.
That's fair. I think it's worth throwing it out there because he is lost in some heartbreaking ways in the last week and change. So
what do you think? What do you think, Willie? Is it too early for them to start working on his psyche there as far as a couple of near misses the last 2 races?
Well, it definitely could. I think we'll really see in this race and in Bristol Sunday what Chase is really made of, as far like mentally at least, because it definitely can take a toll as far as, just start second guessing yourself or anything. I mean, his dad was the king of coming close, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in his blood, but I don't know. I think Chase is a good enough driver that he can overcome it.
Okay, and that's kind of the same way that I feel. I think that's going to exactly be the case. I think that I think that he's got the chops, and I think he's got the pedigree to overcome a little bit of adversity there. So it's going to be a fun one. It should be a fun race to see. It's definitely not going to be nearly as long as the race was on Sunday, and then we're going to have the race that I look forward to more than any other race. Well, there's 2 races that I love. Both of them run at the same track. I probably like the Bristol night race a little better, but we're going to talk about the Bristol, the Food City 500 there, which is the early Bristol race, and that's going to be next Sunday, and that's going to be that's the one that I want to talk about because that's short track racing to me. Man, that is a whole different animal, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to talking about that later in the week. Any final thoughts, gentlemen? Willie, anything you want to say? Any last minute picks that you want to make before we get out of here?
Yeah, I got my own one more race prop. It's the Team of Race winner, Joe Gibbs Racing at plus 175. I rode it last week, or I rode it Sunday. I'm going to ride it again. I feel like I was on the right side, but was already at a disadvantage with the Denny Hamlin stuff. I think that I'm going to ride that again just to see how it works.
Okay. You do. It does give you a couple of pretty fair racers there in that 11 car and that 18 car. So I don't hate that one bit. I like that plus 175 on JGR to pick up the victory on Wednesday night. Scott, what do you think? Anything the catching your eye before we get out of here?
Yes. I actually have one question just for your thoughts here, and I have one prop that I like. So the top Ford, you know that I'm very big into the top of the car brands, and I seem to be giving out a prop on that almost every week. For top Ford car, Kozlowski's plus 300, Logano's plus 375, Harvick's plus 325. Am I wrong for feeling like that line's too high on Harvick? I feel like that line should be somewhere around plus 200 and change.
You know what? To me, I think those guys are all pretty evenly matched.
It's tough. I was just curious because looking at that, Kozlowski being the favorite kind of shocked me a little bit. I know it's because he won the race on Sunday, but Harvick has been so consistent in the top 10, in the top 5 that I feel like that might be worth a look at a plus 325. So it's worth mentioning.
I don't hate that at all. That's a nice value play. I'm probably with you. You would maybe expect that to be more in the 250 range.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. I
don't know that you get a ton, but that's some decent value. Willie, what do you think? Harvick top 4, is that worth a sniff there at 325?
Well, it wasn't top 4. It was him to be the top Ford. So hypothetically, Kozlowski could finish ahead of Harvick in the top 4, so to speak. But I feel like you limit your damage if Harvick is supposed to finish in the top 5, which historically the season.
I'm saying Ford with a D. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying Ford. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Willie, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I gave Harvick out as one of my picks. If I can see why the pricing would be that way, given how things shook out Sunday. But like, as I touched on earlier, with this being a shorter race, the strategy is going to be completely different. I just think that they're going to treat this like it's a completely different new race. And as you said, Harvick is just so consistent that he's hard to pass.
Yeah, totally agree. And you have a lot less opportunity there in 310 laps than you did in running 600 miles.
Yeah, and I also have one other prop that I'm looking at. I gave it out last week. I'm not sure if I won it or not. It's kind of a gray area with the Chase Elliott top Chevy prop after last week. But Elliott, once again, to be top Chevy's plus 225. And I know that you're on Bowman, and I have a sprinkle on Byron late. Jimmy at plus 450 starting 40th is an easy pass for me. Not really interested. Elliott has looked phenomenal over the last couple of weeks. Plus 225. I feel like he should be somewhere in the plus 150 range. I'll take that. I feel like that line is too high.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think that's a consistent. I think it's a pretty chalky play, obviously, but I think there's still some value there.
You have any thoughts on that, Willie?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right. Yeah, I probably like your Ford pick better, but
yeah,
I don't.
I'm going to pull the trigger on both, but that's my thoughts on the other props.
Okay.
So, question before we wrap up: do we want to all just recap all of our plays?
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott. I'll let you go, and we'll finish up with Willie. Go ahead and tell us what you've got now, and I'll help a little bit there. We've got you down for your race winners at Truex, Kyle Busch, and Byron for a third of a unit. Go ahead and recap the other stuff that you got there.
Yeah, so just to be clear, the Truex and Kyle Busch are for half a unit, and the Byron's for a third. Other than that, I like 1 unit on Logano against Jimmy Johnson. I like, just based on starting position, etc. I like 1 unit on Reddick over Kenseth. And I also like 1 unit on Elliott to be top Chevy, along with 1 unit on Harvick to be top Ford. Elliott's at plus 225 on DraftKings, and Harvick is plus 325 on DraftKings.
Okay. All right, very good. And Willie, I've got you down for Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick. And what else gets Winning Willie excited down there?
I'm also going to play the Austin Dillon over Eric Almirola matchup prop at plus 100, and I'm also going to play the Joe Gibbs Racing the team of the race winner. I don't plan on diving too deep into this race either. It's something about Charlotte that I don't particularly like betting on. I love the track itself. I think it's one of the best tracks in NASCAR, but it's something about the track that I've never really had a lot of success betting on.
All right. Well, then we'll be looking forward to getting your thoughts on Bristol and see because that's they don't get a lot more different than Charlotte and Bristol. They're 2 very different tracks and 2 very different races. So we're going to talk about a war of attrition. That is a fun one to watch, and we're going to talk about that here later in the week. So, and just to recap mine, I've got Kyle Busch plus 700, Alex Bowman at plus 750, and Clint Boyer, the hometown boy here from Missouri, had quarter unit on him at plus 8, at plus 80. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Do you have any matchups with that or no?
I don't have any matchup props. I don't know.
Oh, I know. I'm saying you can tail either Willie or mine. I'm asking. Do you have any?
I will tail. Give me your matchup again.
So I know you don't like the Logano Johnson one, but you like the Reddick plus 100 against Kenseth.
Yeah, I do like that. I will fade you. I'll take Johnson. I'll take a Johnson.
Okay. We'll have a little bragging rights competition here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've got okay, and I'm gonna write that down. That I've got Johnson in the matchup over.
And that was minus 115 on both sides.
Okay, and that was give me again. It was Johnson over
Logano.
That's right. Okay. Oh yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay,
And
we'll see.
Willy, what was your?
We'll see how much you'll like it after the race. That's all I'm saying. We'll figure it out. But,
yeah, little schmacky talk here, boy. All right. And Willy, what was your matchup? Because I know I like that one as well.
Austin Dillon over Eric Almirola with
Big fan.
plus 100 on Dillon.
Yeah, big fan of that one. I'm with you. I think Eric Almirola is. I think if ever there was a guy you're going to talk about that's going to be your Derek Cope or your Kenny Schrader, those kind of guys that are destined to run about 15 to 20 every race. I think that's Eric Almirola. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Give me that one. I'm all over that one. So, all right, boys. Well, it's been fun talking a little racing. We'll be back. We're back tomorrow, Scott. We're going to talk a little UFC, right?
Yeah. Yes, we have Josh Broom coming on, who is one of the heads of the UFC department of Winners and Whiners. So, looking forward to having him on. Pretty interesting scenario going on, as they still are not fully certain with regard to where this event's going to be held. It's about 80% sure it's going to be in Vegas, but there have been some potential backup plans in store just in case something doesn't work out. But yeah, should be in Vegas. It should be a pretty entertaining card, and looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, we'll be spending the day keeping an eye on Twitter to see what kind of developments happen throughout the sports world. This is we should get announcements, like Scott said, from the NHL. Is there probably as early as today. NBA should be following not too far behind, and this is put up or shut up week for the MLB. It's smarter people than me are saying it, but I firmly believe it that if they don't get it worked out this week, I think they're going to be toast as far as getting an MLB season.
Well, now that the Dominator is not on the show, I think both of us agreed that we're skeptical, to say the least, on a baseball season.
Yes, I think it's every day it fades.
It's the salary cap issues on top of everything that's just the ultimate concern for me. I just think there's too many variables at this point.
Yep, totally agree. Hey, Willy, thanks for joining us, man. It's been a blast as always. Appreciate you stopping by.
Oh yeah, I'm always glad. Always glad to come.
All right. Well, we got a little trucks tonight. We didn't talk much trucks, but if you guys if you need a little racing fix,
Kyle Busch.
What's that?
Kyle Busch.
Yeah, Kyle Busch and the trucks is hard to beat. We'll see if anybody can pick up that bounty.
I will throw one little pick out on that before we leave. Sorry to
What's
interrupt
that?
you. I said we got a
last-second truck pick. We got a last-second truck pick.
John Hunter Nemechek. If you're not going to play Kyle Busch, John Hunter Nemechek is the way to go.
Okay. And what kind of price we got on him?
Well, I don't have my book pulled up in front of me. I want to say it was 25 to 1.
He's plus 4,000 on Fox Bet.
I want to say it was 25 to 1 at DraftKings, but
I see 40 to 1 on Fox Bet, so we'll give you 40 to 1.
Truck racing is in his blood.
Yeah, his old man could race a truck or two, couldn't he?
I think he still is.
I saw that lineup, and yeah, we should have talked about that, because there's some guys still racing the trucks. I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? But yeah, it's you can't pry them out of those trucks.
Well,
they're fun to watch. So
yeah, it's an interesting race when, quote, any other driver is plus 5,000. I feel like that means it has the potential of being somewhat interesting, so to speak.
Yeah, and these guys are monsters, because you're going to look at Kyle Busch driving 4 straight days, man. Driving 600 miles on Sunday, Xfinity car Monday night, truck race tonight, and then finishing back up in the NASCAR Cup.
And yet we all like him at 7 to 1 on Wednesday. So whatever that means to you, keep that in mind.
I would have liked to have seen some kind of total prop, like add all the finishing positions together for the 4 races for Kyle Busch, over or under.
I think that was a little bit too creative. I don't think sportsbooks really thought of that, but I would definitely like to see that in the future.
That'd have been super fun.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. All right, boys, it's been a blast as always. We thank everybody out there for stopping by and checking us out. Don't forget to stop by winnersandwhiners.com. Checking out all the great material over there being put up by people like Winning Willy, Josh Broom. You're going to meet him tomorrow. He's a good cat, knows his stuff down there as far as UFC goes. So make sure you stop by tomorrow and check us out. As always, I'm Scott Steen. For me, for Scott Reichel, for Winning Willy, for all of us over here at winnersandwhiners.com. We thank you for being part of the show. As always, we couldn't do it without you. Make sure you drop us a comment. Let us know you're out there. Let us know what you're thinking about these races. We always like to get the opinion of everybody that's tuning in. So until tomorrow, you guys take care. Good luck. Everybody stay safe. And we'll be back to talk about today in sports betting on tomorrow's show. All right. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.